Okay, my friends, today we are going to create our background in the event that you would like to do a watercolored effect for your Taj Mahal painting. We went over this yesterday, but I want to show you again just in case, because I know there was kind of technical difficulties. So the directions were to wet your paper, and before you begin, you might tape down your watercolor paper. It just helps. So what this is called is a wet on wet technique. Water is the vehicle for watercolor because that's how it activates the paint. So I've said before, you always want to wet your pans, the little circles, before you get started, just to wake them up. You really could use any color, sky. But the trick to this is to add a ton of color to your brush. Strong color, roll or twist your brush like a piggy in the mud. Let me bring this up closer. Back and forth. And like 20 times, really, to get a lot of color, okay? You don't want to dig or stab or swirl. We call this witch's hair because it looks like witch's hair. Okay, but just get enough color on there so it makes a nice effect. So this is going to take some time because the paper's wet, so the watercolor will spread out naturally. And it does its kind of own little thing that's pretty cool. So we're not painting per se, we're dabbing. So you want the paint to just kind of lay on top. You could use multiple colors. I'm using red just because that was featured in on our supply list, but you could use blues, magentas, sunset colors. But again, the more that you pet the pan, the stronger the color you're going to get. And you don't want your watercolor paper to dry out, so it is also a balancing act. I'm trying to work fast. If your paper gets dry, or the paint gets dry rather, just take a little bit of your water and just reactivate. Do you want color, like colorful puddles, if that makes sense? You don't want to paint back and forth. You just want lots of strong color happening here. I'm just going to get into some magenta. Now I'm just going crazy with color. Just want to get some color on here so I can show you our effect. Color Palooza. So if again your certain colors get diluted, go back over it. Make sure your colors are strong, but not dripping off the page. Okay. Before you put your salt down, if you want to do a quick little effect of using water droplets to kind of create a speckled effect, that's awesome and fun. But now here's the salt we were talking about yesterday. It's called kosher salt, but you could use regular table salt. The trick to this really is to do the salt whilst your paper is still wet. This will not work if the paint's dry. So if it's dry, add more watercolor and more water. And I'm sprinkling the salt where it is the most wet. Now, for those of you who are tempted to eat the salt, I would discourage you from doing that. You'll be dehydrated and you won't have energy to do art. Okay, so this is going to sit for a few minutes, and what will happen is it's going to have an effect that is going to create texture. Now here's what I did earlier from class, and you can see that there are sparkly specks, super cool, and that's the fun stuff. Okay, you're creating this charming kind of neat background, so that when you put your Taj Mahal on here, it will be really creative and colorful, a nice piece of art. Okay, so those of you who want to draw the Taj Mahal, just draw it, that's fine. But I'm gonna let this sit here till it dries, but because we're gonna be in class, I will show you tomorrow the results of how this looks, but I just wanted to give you an instructional video. Okay, let's go.